Every paw has a story, some filled with love, some with pain, but all of them deserve hope. Welcome to Tales of Hope, voices for the voiceless, hope for every paw. Here, we speak for those who can't, and together, we create hope, one paw at a time.
Today we have a very interesting personality, Seema from Kolkata. She is into animal welfare for almost 6 years now, but she did the first rescue when she was 4 years old. Seema, I'm so glad for you sparing your time, precious time, to be with us on the show.
Thank you, Anil. I'm grateful for the opportunity to share and spread awareness.
So, Seema, can we understand about you? What inspired you to be, to get into animal welfare?
So I think somewhere it must have been in my genes, I think, because a few years ago, while rummaging through my mother's, sort of belongings, I found an old black and white photograph of a very stately, handsome Sikh gentleman in his fields in now what is Pakistan. And he's got a few dogs around him and he is feeding them. So I asked my mother who that was, and she said that's her grandfather. So my great grandfather.
Wow.
And so I suppose, it was in the genes somewhere. And like I mentioned that my first rescue was a little kitten when I was 4 years old, and I found her on the streets coming back from school. And I just picked her up and brought her home. I don't know if it was the right thing to do, because those days, I had no knowledge whether she had a mother or didn't, and you don't pluck, babies away from their mother, but she seemed to be alone. And I gave her to my mother and I said, we've got to look after her. And my mother said, who is going to look after her? And I'm supposed to have apparently emotionally blackmailed her, saying that, she doesn't have a mother. What happens if you don't have a mother? How will you feel? So my mother said, okay, just bring her in and we'll look after her. So that's how it started. But I've been very fortunate that my parents have always encouraged my sister and I to, to do this. And they've always, helped us grow as compassionate human beings, whether it's compassion towards animals, towards the environment, towards human beings, towards, family, friends, anyone. So I suppose that's where the sort of influence came from.
Okay. Now that's a very nice one. So can we understand, do you have any favorite movie or a book related to the animals?
So I'm a sucker for animal movies, but
okay.
So several books and several, of course, starting with Jungle Book and all of those that we read as children. But one of my most favorite films is a film called 8 Below, which is starring Paul Walker, and it's about 8 huskies that draw the sled
through the snow and everything.
Through the snow, and what happens when Paul, the character of Paul has to leave them alone, and how they survive. And I promise you, I must have seen that film 10 or 15 times, and I have teared every time I see it, simply because of the grit and determination of those animals to survive. And then there is Hachiko, there is, the fun movies like Marley and, what's that beautiful cat film, Bob, the gentleman in UK who finds comfort in a stray cat who draws him out of addiction and all of that. And that's a true story. The cat died recently. And a book which I absolutely love is a series of 3 books, The Dalai Lama's Cat.
Okay.
If you haven't read, I have gifted that to a number of people, and it's just not a cat story, but it's just so much more. And the way the cat tells her story, and she's really sending a message out there, and it's a message for life. So some of these are favorites that still govern me.
I think I'm going to get my hands onto that book. That is something
I'll send you a copy.
I would really appreciate
You
that.
will love it. It's a small book, very easy to read, David Michie, but you will not put it down. I promise you this.
I love it. Now, in terms of, are you following any organization while you're working with your animal rights, or animal welfare?
Yes, so animal welfare, some of my gurus are definitely people, who've set up organizations, who are doing some incredible work in the world, in the field of animal welfare. Of course, Animal Aid in Udaipur is one of my most favorite places. There's so much I have learned from the team there, because Udaipur is where I really hung my corporate boots and plunged full on into animal welfare, and they were an immense source of guidance. Then there is HAS in Coimbatore, Save Our Strays in Mumbai, and there's Kartavya Society. There is Sahas for Pune, who I follow on Instagram. Some brilliant, and these are all young people doing brilliant work. In terms of animal rights, undoubtedly PFA, People for Animals, helmed by Maneka Gandhi. PETA, which is a very strong body that talks not just for the dogs and cats, but animal welfare,
Welfare.
fur trade and using animal skin for fashion accessories, etc. Blue Cross of India, Dr. Chini Krishna, is another guru that I count on in a big way. Animal Welfare Board of India, to help us pull out those laws and those things whenever there's always issues of society is not allowing my dog to pee here, and my dog I cannot feed street dogs. Animal Welfare Board of India is my go-to place to pull out laws and share them with people, to help guide them as to how they can work with their societies.
Absolutely. Currently, I don't know whether you're aware of it or not. A gentleman in Mumbai has filed a case. Yes, because they were not allowing they are not allowing his blind dog to take the elevator. It is so sad.
I think it's brilliant, but it's brilliant what he's done, and I support him 100%.
Absolutely. I mean, this is crazy. The dog is old. He's a senior dog, and apart from that, he's blind. But I think.
And it's 32 floors or something. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yes, it's seriously ridiculous. That's where my next question would come out. What does animal welfare actually mean to you? See, I'll be very honest. Let's keep two parts. Animal welfare is one part. Animal rights we will discuss on a second.
Absolutely. So animal welfare, to me, as the word welfare very clearly suggests, is ensuring that the community animals that live in our communities, around our homes, are healthy, well looked after, and are integrated in the community and in the society. We have to coexist. The wolf was there way before we were. And these are the dogs are descendants of wolves. We all know that. And irrespective of where their origin is, they are part of our community. There is no way we can get rid of them. We can't lock them up in shelters, sanctuaries, much as, people may say, take them home if you want, that kind of stories you hear. Apne ghar le jaiye and all of that. It doesn't work. So the only way is to ensure that they get a good meal every day, at least one hearty meal, healthy meal. Ensure that they are vaccinated from disease, therefore, not causing, a sort of epidemic of any sort, and sterilization of community animals. While one can argue that sterilization and all of this is the job of the government, we all know, and I'm not criticizing the government of any state, country, anything, but we know the government has a million things on their agenda. And if we want to make a safer environment for these animals, then I think we can take that responsibility of the 30, 40, 50 community animals that may live in and around a radius we choose. We cannot help every animal around, but we can at least ensure that we control population. So for me, welfare is really good food, vaccinations and inoculations from disease for anti-rabies, and sterilization of community animals. So we keep reducing the population, making it a healthy balance. We are not intending to, some people say if you sterilize them, you will finish the dog population in the world. That's not happening, not for many centuries. But that's not the intention. The intention is to have a healthy balance. And there was recently an article I read. Mumbai actually has been able to successfully do that and show the reduction in community street dogs. I think what was I think certain number of dogs in 8 kilometers has now become 15 kilometers or something like that, which I think is excellent work, and that will only happen with sterilization. So that's what animal welfare to me is.
I think it is, as you rightly mentioned, during what you were saying, we as community need to stand up. I mean, I don't want to boast about it, but in the community where my mother lives, I had to personally stand up and fight for these
Mm.
little puppies and, make them understand, oh, we can't just, because I don't know whether I should say this or not, but my 85-year-old mother was threatened.
Ooh.
It was like, because your son is taking care of them and he's bringing all these laws and everything. But they didn't realize I was not only doing that, but I also made sure that I took the responsibility as soon as the
Yes.
kids were 6 months old.
Yes.
I got them sterilized. It was like a pack of three. But since I said one, I've got home, two, I made sure, and including their mother, I made sure that, they were sterilized.
Yes.
And
Yes.
but I tell you, even till date, there is another thing that you said, कि आप अपने घर ले जाओ.
Yes.
I have been hearing that for a very, very long time. अपने घर ले जाओ. मैं अपने घर कितनों को ले आऊं?
No,
But they
and that's not the solution. We have to learn
absolutely,
to coexist.
you see, this is where I always say to people, we talk about coexisting, but do we really want it?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
you're right.
It's like the community. I mean, there are a handful of us who would say, let's coexist. But I have seen a lot of other people diplomatically, even, the societies that we're dealing with, they talk about it, let's coexist. But do they really want it?
Yes.
I'll give you a simple example. During this action that we were taking against the people at my mother's community, they all talk about coexist, coexist. But when the SPCA and the animal husbandry and everybody came in, you won't believe it. There were almost 40 people who were there to fight ke inko nikalo yahan se. So
I hear you.
so basically, I've realized, we talk about coexistence, but we really don't want it. So that's where I think we need to shift that perspective, as community.
Yes, I agree with you 100%.
Can you, Seema, will you be able to share a story or incident which highlights the importance of animal rights?
So I think one of the stories is definitely the Bombay, story that we just mentioned about fighting for rights of his old blind pet dog. I think that's a brilliant, brilliant example. But I think animal rights also, is when people come together, we can move mountains. And recently, I think you must be following the news about the Telangana, Hyderabad university issue of,
Yes.
the forest being cleared for on a technicality that it's not a forest, but it is a forest kind of thing. And the students stood up and, while it may not be directly animal rights, but there's animals living there, and there is the rarest, the spider species that is only found in that forest. There's deer, there's peacocks, and, a whole bunch of people, and I think the community as a whole stepped in, and they were able to get a stay on that. And now what happens with that land is a different thing. But I think that in the recent times is a brilliant, brilliant story about animal rights as animal environment. I think they're all part of the same sort of
Ecosystem.
bandwidth. We can't segregate one from the other. And I'm thinking, if I can think of anything else, the Jalaika to ban on the bullfighting in Andhra Pradesh is again one. And yes, a lot of illegal stuff will happen, but at least the government has taken cognizance of the cruelty aspect. Traditions sometimes, when they were traditions, there must have been a reason for them. Things happened in a different way. But now, in the times we live, some traditions need to be forgotten and, and done away with. Animal sacrifice. One can see that happening even during Eid. There are families and friends of ours who don't sacrifice an animal anymore. They say, no, we don't want to do it. So this is where I think animal rights are winning. Of course, there's a lot of work to be done in that sphere. But we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm confident.
I'm sure it's all about taking small baby steps. Rightly,
Yes.
like you rightly mentioned. Even I have a lot of Muslim friends who have actually, done away with, like, no, we're not
Yes.
sacrificing anymore. So yes,
Yes.
there are people who genuinely understand these things. Uh,
Yes.
Seema, coming back, what are the key challenges animals face in India today, and how can they be addressed?
So I think just one, some of the key challenges is that they are shunned. And a large part of that comes from the educated, socially, upwardly mobile people, because we've become so conscious of brands, and this has happened, I think, in the last 15, 20 years, when disposable income has become, significant, and we can afford so much more, that even animals have become branded. I want a dog, but I want a Labrador. I don't want that, oh, street dog. Hey, I don't want it. Why? Because, God knows why, its parentage is not known. So I think that's one of the big things. We need to change mindsets, and I think it will happen slowly and steadily. The other big challenge is, when people see you feeding a community animal, they sort of start, don't feed them here, don't feed them there. And there was a time when I would get belligerent, and I would get in, roll up my sleeves and ready for a fight, till I realized that, the fight is going to get me nowhere. I'm going to come back home feeling miserable, and that person is going to think he won the argument, and I'm not letting him win. So I've employed something called the Jai Shri Krishna principle. This is my own principle.
Wow.
So whenever somebody says, don't feed them here or don't feed them here, I just say, okay, where should I feed them? So then they will say, no, but why do you need to feed them? I said, no, that's my right as a citizen of the country. I will feed them. Where I feed them, you can determine. If you tell me to take the dog to that little corner there, I will take the dog and feed them there. So no problem. And then when you have these people yelling and shouting, I would just turn around and say, Jai Shri Krishna, and walk away. And I realized the peace it brought to me, patience, because you can't come back home feeling frustrated and angry, because you will take that out on family and, people around you, and that's not fair on them. So again, this challenge of, don't feed them. And I realize, and I tell people, wouldn't you like a good hearty meal every day? We are privileged to have 3 and 4 of those meals.
Absolutely.
Why not one good meal for them? And people believe that the government of India sponsors food and gives us money in our bank accounts. Secretly every month I get a stash of funds from the government or somebody. And I say, no, this is my own money, and I choose to do this because this for me is prayer. This for me is God. I'm agnostic, so I don't believe in any rituals and any idol worship or anything. For me, this is God's prayer, or this is God's, whatever you may call it. So I realized that gradually you can get people to understand and start supporting. And I'll tell you a very funny incident that happened the other day. I was feeding dogs, and my husband and I usually go out early morning because he goes off for work, and he usually takes me because my receptacle started this much, has become this big now. So I can't walk with it anymore. And a lady from the next door building came, and she said, do you do this every day? And I said, yes. And she says, every day? I said, yes, rain, hail, sunshine, cold, whatever it is. And she said, oh. So I said, just as you and I would like a hearty meal, so would they. I can't give them more than one meal a day. But, one good meal keeps them, belly full and happy. They don't get aggressive. They don't start fighting, squabbling. So she says, but we are vegetarian and we can't feed them meat. I said, that's fine. That's totally okay. But you can put out a bowl of water. You can feed birds. You can grow trees. You can donate to NGOs that are, whether it's human NGOs or animal welfare NGOs, whatever is your calling. I said, so many people want to do so many things, but finances are restricted for many people. So she turns around and says, finances to bahut hai hamare paas. So I didn't know how to react. And I said, well, that's wonderful. You're blessed. So why don't you share a little bit of that with, with an NGO or anybody? And I'm happy to guide you towards a couple of them.
How effective do you think the Indian laws are when it comes to the Prevention of Cruelty Act?
So I'm glad that the law exists, which obviously says a lot about our country, that we do, animals are integrated into the Constitution of India, and therefore a law exists. But it's time we changed that law. We, brought it on par with cruelty towards children or murder or whatever it is, because it's important to do it. Community animals are going to exist. They're going to be a part of our society. And therefore, they deserve the same rights as we do. After all, they're living and breathing. So no more 50. I think that hashtag trended for a very, very long time.
A long time.
And it'll keep trending. I think people need to be made aware and afraid to hurt or harm an animal simply because they think it's okay to do it. It's easy to do it. The animal will never be able to reveal who hurt them. Just like a child will never be able to say who raped her or him or who molested the child. So I think in that sense, we need to change the law. I know there is a petition that had been signed. The law is still not passed, but I'm hopeful, I'm positive that we will, do that. And most important is that our police force, our law enforcers. So the law exists even today. The penalty may be low, the penalty may be weak, but the law exists, and therefore our law enforcers, be it the police force and all of that, and the the lawyers, the judiciary, they have to step in, take this seriously. And Bombay has done that successfully with the Inspector Sudhir Kodalkar. He's created a phenomenal community of lawyers who do work pro bono, volunteers who step in every time there's cruelty to an animal. So while this is a voluntary organization, and there is a police person at the helm of it all, I don't see why this cannot be replicated in, other police forces. They are human beings. Our cops are human beings, and therefore they have compassion. I know many of them might have dogs. Outside every police station, you'll see 3 or 4 streeties sitting there. So they sit there because they feel safe and they feel protected. So yes, I think our judiciary and our police force has to create a cell, a team where volunteers or people who see animals being treated cruelly can report a crime without having to sit for hours. Like, you mentioned at one point that, you had to sit for hours trying to get your society to take cognizance of the fact that you're going to continue to feed the street dogs.
I tell you, yes, absolutely. I hope, when we put this out, people in power can listen and understand that there is a need to come and do a bit of change, and they need to start implementing. And I also have this, if you are short on manpower, I think we have enough NGOs out there who would be more than willing to, give a hand in terms of, helping.
Absolutely. And see, most large NGOs have cruelty officers.
Yes.
So, and they know the law, they know how to go about it. And, not every case has to be reported to the police. Sometimes volunteers like you and I can step in, talk to them. Sometimes it's also about people not knowing, that what they did is not right. So everything doesn't have to become a police case. We can guide, but we need to know that the law is on our side and that it'll step in if we need it.
If the need be, absolutely.
Yes,
now, that's where I would come to the next question. Do you think there is enough being promoted to promote the laws of animal welfare and their rights amongst the general public?
No, not at all. A short answer to that question, no. Again, because the laws are only known to people like you and I who make it our business to know them, simply because we need to know them, we want to know them. But what about the general public that is sitting on the fence or doesn't care yet, I don't need to know. I think it's very important that these laws become part of society bylaws. They become part of communities. They are talked about. They are written about, and media can be a huge, play a huge role
Role.
in putting it out there, because everybody reads the newspaper or listens to news or watches it on social media. So it's so easily, today it's so easy to spread the message. There's so much hatred we spread on social media. We can spread positive news as well, and especially when it has to percolate down the system. So radio is, I think, a great channel. I always believe the radio is a great channel to spread the message. And all these 91 point whatevers can definitely pick up and spread the word around about animal laws. Do it on stray dog day, anti-rabies day, it's a dog's day, cat's day. There are so many days. So pick up a topic and start spreading. And I think schools is another place that we can spread this message, because children are extremely receptive. They're like sponges. They will absorb what you give them. And if you can, if you throw the law at them and in big jargon, they won't understand it. But if you demonstrate it to them, like you were saying about taking a pup to a school and letting the pup interact with children, teaching them do's and don'ts of how you shouldn't pull its tail, pull its ears, how you should approach a street dog, what you should do when you see a dog. And if you see somebody being cruel to a dog, come and report it to your mom or your dad or somebody. I think children can be a huge, huge source of spreading this message, because I believe children are inherently kind, extremely receptive, and they can be great ambassadors for any cause. So, yeah.
That is what, even as I said, I've been talking to a lot of people, and they also have that same, they believe that if we can inculcate into our children,
yes,
catch them young, build it into their root system. I think
yes,
the next generation of our kids would be more kinder, with more empathy, to be honest about it.
And empathy is something, once they develop the feeling of empathy, it will be towards everything, be it
Yes.
human beings, be it animals, be it the environment, anything, because the child will not, the feeling of empathy will be so strong that they will not want to distinguish it from one to another.
Yes.
It'll just become part of their DNA, and that's what we want to achieve ultimately, isn't it?
Absolutely. I think that is where we all lack today. We humans, I don't want to point out fingers, but I guess we humans, as we were discussing, you said there's so much of anger and everything. I think with humans today, we have forgotten what empathy is actually all about.
Yes.
That's where I'm going to come back to. What role do you think as a community can play in improving animal welfare?
I think huge role the community can play. And I always said this, that if every housing society, I don't mean every apartment in the housing society, but every housing society just adopts, and not adopts doesn't mean ghar le jao, every dog and every cat, just adopts the dogs or cats that are in and around their community, ensures they are well fed, have a little shelter during the weather, the harsh weathers, be it the hot summers or the heavy monsoons or the cold winters. Do that. And Delhi is great. I haven't spent enough time in Bombay, but I believe Bombay is also very good with this. But Delhi, some of the older parts of Delhi, Greater Kailash, Defense Colony, South Extension, you see very old dogs. So which means that they have lived in that community for practically their entire lives, maybe as pups. And you will see maybe one or two dogs in a lane, not more than that. They all have a coat over in winter. They're nice and healthy, fluffy dogs. They have a little, shelter, be it a cardboard box or a wooden crate or something next to a darban's, cabin. So that means there is somebody caring enough to allow that dog to be in and around. The dogs are healthy because they look well fed. Their fur is shining, glowing. So really, that's all it takes. And like we learned about sterilization much later in life, we can guide and help, and there are NGOs in almost every city. You know, when you sort of get into animal welfare, you see on social media that a dog in Bilaspur has got hit or something like this. And you start searching and you find volunteers in Bilaspur who are willing to step in and look after that dog. So,
Yes.
so it's volunteers and NGOs are not a big city thing. Compassion exists everywhere. So social media is a great way to reach out. So I think communities can definitely step into their little bit, and really that's all it takes. 2 square meals a day, a vaccination a year, little medication as they grow older, and when their time comes, a dignified burial, a dignified end. That's all we all ask for, isn't it? A dignified life and a dignified end.
Absolutely. It's just a matter of giving them a little dignity and respect. That's
Yes,
all I believe in.
absolutely. Absolutely.
What you were telling me about Delhi, because recently, I think on social media, there was one of these Sikh fellows who was distributing
Those
in
drum
drums with gaddas in it. And that was such a beautiful thing to do. I was really impressed.
and these were drums from his factory that had no use thereafter. I mean, he would sell them for scrap, right?
Right.
But he chose not to sell them for scrap and use it for something more gainful. And
It
I
was
think it's
such.
brilliant.
It's absolutely, that is what I believe. It is a small effort. All you need to
Yes,
do is be
yes,
willing to do it more than anything else.
absolutely, absolutely.
That's where we come to, as you said, what roles can corporates play, in
Oh,
continuing?
huge.
Yeah.
It's my biggest bane, and yet it is an answer to all our problems. Corporates can play a huge, huge role in supporting financially, of course, because each corporate has a mandate to put aside a certain part of their turnover for CSR. Now, every corporate, of course, based on their corporate directives, chooses the charities they want to support. Could be human, could be environment, could be women, children, cancer, whatever it may be. But I also feel that because community animals live, they don't choose where they are. I'm going to sit below company X or below company Y because I think company X makes better product. No, they don't choose it. They choose to be there because that's where they're probably born, or that's where they find safety, or whatever it may be. So corporations, I think, can support it in a big way by by including animal welfare in their CSR, by donating to NGOs where, of course, they can see credibility and where their money is going. There are enough NGOs that they can go visit, see, like you would do your due diligence for any NGO that you would support, or any cause that you would support, you would do the same for that. But they can also do tactical things. So on World Rabies Day, choose to vaccinate and support volunteers like you and I, and say that, we would like to vaccinate 100 dogs on World Rabies Day. Would you want us to do it in your area? Yes, sure. Or we would like to do it once a quarter in different locations and areas. Would you connect us to volunteers who can make that happen? Yes, of course we can. And that is what communities will see, that, oh, their dogs are vaccinated, so they are safe from disease, and so is the human safe from any untoward incident, which is likely to happen sometimes. We can't say that it doesn't happen. So I think corporates can step in a big way. And I think it is, while we can make presentations to corporate companies, but I also feel that every corporate has compassionate people who are animal lovers, carers, animal welfareists, activists, whatever name you want to give to them. I feel that the onus of responsibility to convince their corporate company to
Get
donate a little for it is theirs. I feel that we can do it. And I was telling you about how, at the Taj we have in Calcutta, where my husband works, we have 2 community dogs, Chumki, who just strayed in here a few years ago. She stayed, and she's birthed pups innumerable times, but not one survived until 2 years ago when she had two pups, and both have survived. But now she's sterilized and she lives happily. She's looked after, fed twice a day. Her daughter Tumki really has the run of the land. She's all over the place. She meets guests, she meets staff. She hears our car, she comes running because she knows her dog treats will be in the boot. And she has a place to live. She has a little house made for her. She has access to clean water. She has access to a lot of love and care. And that's all really it takes, isn't it? So her sterilization, the mother's sterilization, was all looked after by the hotel. They sponsored it. So it's not hard to do. And because she's always with people, she's not aggressive at all.
At all.
She knows how to interact with people. And, she listens. She's extremely intelligent. She looks like a little Doberman, the ears up straight. But so doable, totally doable.
I think, people forget the root cause. That's what I keep telling everybody. You have to look at the root cause of the aggression. Like,
Yes.
you mentioned that Jumki is so friendly with everybody at Taj. So because if you are not if she doesn't get to see aggression right from a childhood,
Yes,
that's the impression she has that humans are good.
absolutely.
So I think it is basically we humans who have to understand to treat them with respect and dignity. And if we do that,
Absolutely.
I think we
Just a
will.
little bit of kindness. That's all
Absolutely.
it takes. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. And she's such a good dog. She doesn't venture into the public areas of the hotel. She won't go into the lobby or anything like that. She just hangs around outside. So she knows her boundary. She knows that, okay, I'm not to step into this place. And it's brilliant.
As we were discussing previously, which we couldn't, Indian dogs, as I was mentioning it to you, are the most, especially the streeties, they are
Yes.
supposed to be the most intelligent of all the
They are.
lot. As I was telling you, there was somebody I was talking to, and he said there were people who came down from Europe and US just to do a study,
That's
and
brilliant.
again they're coming back next year to do another study on these Indian dogs.
Brilliant.
I think they would be coming to Calcutta even, because this time, and I have recommended your name even to
Oh,
them.
wonderful. I'd be more than happy to
Yeah, because
assist with what you
because the last, I think when they did it recently, it was Pune, Goa, Mumbai, and there was 2 more cities. But he said they're
Okay.
coming to do more cities next year. So I was like,
Wonderful.
I have already recommended your name to them.
Wonderful. Thank you.
No, please. This is
Thank
something
you.
that we do. Now, coming back to the whole thing, in your experience, what is the most impactful way an individual can advocate for these, animals?
So as an individual, I think what you and I do is a great way, is to be seen caring for them. People must see what you do. People must see that dogs are not aggressive by nature. Just like human beings, they have temperaments. I mean, not every human being is this epitome of kindness and serenity and calm. We are individuals, and that's what makes us different. Is that we have different personalities, and similarly to dogs. But kindness is one thing that a dog or an animal understands instantly. And people say, that, this dog, there is one fellow who is a bit of a nipper. He nips certain people when they walk by. And people come and tell me that, he does this to, I said, does he do it to everyone? No, just to some. So I said, just observe and see who he does it to, and then we'll try and find a solution. And they came back to me because I put the responsibility on them, not on, I didn't take it. So they came back and said, everybody who passes by when he's sleeping, if they go too close or they start shooing him off before he's even reacted, he nips. So I said, there you go. He's not even doing anything, and you start, thinking, preempting he's going to do something, he's going to do it. So just leave him be. If he's sleeping, just walk a little further away. Don't have to go right next to him and startle him. Because imagine that if you were sleeping and somebody came right next to you and shook you awake, you'd be startled and probably end up slapping the person.
Absolutely.
But that dog, I call him Jelly Belly, because he's this huge Indie. He comes and he puts his paws on me. He's taller than me if he puts his paws on my shoulder. And people say, how come he doesn't say anything to you? I said, oh, he and I have a,
A bond.
we have a connection from our past life. And they kind of laugh, because you have to bring in humor into all of this to let people understand that, there are different personalities, and we've got to allow for personalities to, be a part of the game. So feed, vaccinate, sterilize. When people see you doing this, even the worst of naysayers, which I experienced in Udaipur where we lived, our colony would keep, sort of reprimanding me and saying, don't feed these. When we moved there were 4 females, all pregnant. Each one of them had 6 pups. Of course,
Wow,
not all of them survived,
that's true.
but which is the law of nature, that not all will survive for whatever reason. But then COVID hit, and I thought that was a perfect opportunity to start befriending them because the roads were quiet. So we fed, we vaccinated, we sterilized. When we left that place 4 years ago to come to Calcutta, there were just 2 dogs left in the colony because the others just moved away. When they found that, the community is safe, each of them just moved, found another place, set up their own little place. And I have a community of people who still feed there. My ex-driver and my ex-cook. So
Wow.
I send them the money to buy the supplies, and they send me videos and photos, and I have tea vendors and all of that who we built as a community around, who still send me messages if there's a dog that's injured, and then I send it to Animal Aid in Udaipur. They will go attend to it. So we've built a community. I'm not even there. I've moved away. It's been 2 years, but the community continues. The dogs still get fed. Some pass on as age catches up, or whatever accident may happen, whatever the case may be. That's nature and that's the law of the land. But community, so I feel that as an individual, our biggest responsibility is to create a community around us. You and I cannot do this alone.
Absolutely.
We cannot be there 24/7 everywhere. So the community becomes our eyes and ears. The community, and this is the the sort of cascading effect. When people see you doing something, at least one other person is going to pick it up. I'm sure of that. And that one person will instill this in another, and the whole community will be born. And I will share something very interesting with you if I have a moment.
Please do.
So where we feed near a hospital premises, there's a beautiful dog called Lali. So Calcutta, all the brown dogs are called Lali, all the black ones are Kali and Puchku and Choti, and these are kind of the
Names that go with it.
names that go around, okay? So this beautiful girl would wait for her food sitting on a scooty every morning. And one evening at about 8 o'clock, the carer, I didn't have his number on my phone, but he called me, really frantic and saying that a speeding vehicle in hospital zone, so which is again coming back to discipline, laws, ran over this dog and she died instantly. So I said, what happened? They said, no, she's gone. I said, okay, I'm coming there. I was having dinner. I quickly just rustle up my dinner and I rushed there. About 5 minutes walk from home. And they put her to the side and just covered her. So they said, but if we leave her like this, by morning the body will bloat and smell. I said, yes, I understand that. So I called up an ambulance service, and the driver had just reached home to have his dinner, and I said, Raja, I'm so sorry, but please can you come? He said, okay, I'll finish my dinner and I'll come in about an hour or so. I said, yes. There's a lovely burial place in Calcutta, so I called them up and they're open 24 hours, and I said, Nandita, I'm sending this dog, can you please just make sure that she's buried with he said, don't worry, you send her. So we put her in the ambulance and we sent her off, and they buried her, sent me videos and photos. And these people were so tearful and so grateful, saying that thank you for giving they brought her up as a pup, and she must have been 5 or 6 years old. Thank you for giving her dignity. I said, no, thank you for keeping a lookout for her and for looking after her all these years.
Absolutely.
And they said, yes, but if you weren't here feeding these dogs, we wouldn't know what to do. And we would just hand over to the municipality, who would probably just dump her somewhere in a pound or wherever it is that they dump, carcasses. So that's how I thought community. And then about 2-3 weeks later, they said that we are very lonely without her. Although there are other dogs in that lane and in the area, but not with this vendor. So he said, we're very lonely. We want a pup. We don't want an adult dog because they may not adjust here, but we want a pup. And as luck would have it, I was fostering a pup at home who had recovered from tick fever, rickets, God knows, he had a zillion things that happened to him. So I was fostering him at home and I was going to rehabilitate him back where he came from. So I said, I have a beautiful boy. Would you like to see him? They said, so I sent them pictures and they said, yes, give him to us. So I had a lot of people say, oh, you can't, he's such a, you can't, you have to find a home for him. I said, you find a home for an indie and tell me. If you find a home, I'm more than happy to give him a home. But I know what will happen once he grows out of puppyhood and he becomes young and boisterous. They're going to throw him out because, people don't want. So I said, no, this is a much better place for him because I have seen how they care for the community dogs there. So we left him there. He's still with them. They keep him tied up for a few hours during the day because they don't want him to run in the road. They're training him. They walk him 3-4 times a day so he gets a bit of street sense. We take food for him every morning and they feed him twice a day on their own. I just give them a little bit of chappy, the dog food, so that they have something for him. And I deworm him. I vaccinate. He's fully vaccinated. When he's about 7 months, I'll get him neutered. And he's thriving there. He loves it. And he has about 40 people who come and caress him, hold him, care for him, play with him. And he's just such a gentle, happy dog there. So I said, why would I risk putting him in a home I don't even know and can't follow up? Here he is right under my eyes,
You get to see him.
Yes, and then they asked me for another one. So I gave them his brother. So another tea vendor has taken his brother.
Wow.
And both the dogs are happy, settled. And they're healthy dogs, they've grown up well. So it's fine.
I tell you, these are encouraging stories because I tell you, it's so difficult to find proper, decent, loving homes for indies, But forget indies. I mean, today, if you look over on social media, every day you have about 20 to 30 posts, which is like the breeds are being abandoned. And it is so sad.
Labradors and retrievers are the new stray in India. I mean, they're abandoned like left, right, and center. And again, it's because we don't do our due diligence. As long as there is takers, there will be breeders. It's a vicious cycle. Someone's got to break it. But when you want to bring a dog home, you may buy it for 30,000, 10,000, 5,000. You have to do your research on what kind of breed it is, what it entails. Labradors and retrievers are the funniest, gluttonous dogs that eat and become fat very quickly. Hind leg issues. Boisterous dogs if you don't train them. People can't understand why that cute little puppy has grown into this rambunctious big dog.